Wildfires have unfortunately become a regular occurrence for those of us living in California, and a key to survival is preparedness. Aris Papadopoulos is a resilience building expert, and he's sharing his ideas on how the community can prepare for the threat of dangerous wildfires and keep their homes and families safe. Good morning, Aris. Thanks for joining us on the show today.
Good morning, Aubrey. Thanks for having me on.
So obviously right now we're in the midst of very dangerous, destructive wildfires in Northern California in particular. If a homeowner's watching this and they're wondering like, wow, this might happen to me or this could happen to me, how do they assess their own wildfire risk?
Well, anybody living within a mile, let's say, of a forest or a wildlife zone should be concerned and thinking, how combustible is my house and the things around it? Because wildfires can really develop into very extreme temperatures. We can have 1,000 degrees, over 1,000 degrees, 1,500 degrees. I mean, think of a pizza oven that that goes up to 900 degrees, and that's pretty hot. So anything that can burn within 30 yards, I say, of a house should be minimized. Firewood, any trees that vegetation that is dried and can burn. So the least expensive thing you can do is make sure that you have a fire safe zone around your house. And that means removing anything that can burn. Now, if you're planting things, I mean, think about plants that don't easily burn. I like to recommend oak. If you're looking at trees, yucca is also very good, and even buckwheat. Avoid pine, avoid palm trees, and avoid eucalyptus and even rosemary bushes. That I love rosemary, but it's very flammable. Now, if you're looking at the house itself, again, think of the pizza oven, except it's inversed. You want to be on the cool side with all that heat on the outside. So non-combustible materials are very important to prevent that fire from catching on. Unfortunately, the trade kind of complicates, building trade complicates the world. We call things combustible. We call things fire retardant, ignition retardant, non-combustible. What does that all mean? Well, let me make that simple for people. The safest is to be non-combustible. After that, you have fire retardant, and you have different ratings of fire retardant. A is the best, B is more vulnerable, and C is quite vulnerable. Then you have a lesser fire resistance and ignition resistant. That means that it may not start a fire, but if the fire is long enough, it will burn. And finally, you have combustible, which is the highest risk. And this wall behind me is combustible. I'm at a friend's house, and I'm giving him some feedback today.
Aris, when we talk about loss risk when it comes to our property, any other tips on how you can reduce that even more?
You said about lawn risk, or
Loss.
I missed the first word.
Loss risk. Property loss
Oh,
risk.
loss risk.
Yes.
Property loss. Well, obviously, the more non-combustible your property is, the lower that risk will be. So, make sure that, you do the things I mentioned around the house. I like to tell people, if you're looking for a new home, I mean, we all love, the wilderness, but, I'd pick some place that's more than a mile away from a forest and that has easy access, several avenues, let's say, of access to get in and out. I also look at the water supply in that area. Water is definitely something that can reduce the fire vulnerability, and how reliable that water is there. Is it a well? Is it a location that's provided by municipal service? Also, something to know is that fire travels faster moving uphill than it does downhill. So if you're looking at a location that's pretty well wooded and you're picking pretty high up on the hill, if a fire starts low, it's going to move very quickly up the hill, as opposed to moving down the hill. So, these are all pointers for people to think about when they're looking at buying homes. But if you're in an existing home, let's say, you could do some things like, add a fire retardant paint on the outside of the house, or add some kind of a cement fiber board where you may have kind of a outside paneling around the house. It'll create more resistance. So there are things you can do as a homeowner.
Aris, wonderful tips and suggestions, lots of things for people to think about. And I know you also have the Resilience Action Fund. So I'm going to tell everybody, if you want to learn more about that and you want more of these prep tips, you can visit buildingresilient.com.